So that one thing we've realized is that even where you teach and how you express the learning online does not have to be in the classroom. So here we see Lisa New, and her MOOC is focused on poetry, on American poetry. And what she's doing here is that we captured her teaching in a park in Boston that has historical significance for American poetry and the particular poem that she was talking about. So that what you can see is that we capture learning in almost every conceivable setting, from sort of talking with the instructor directly, face-to-face, discussion in the classroom, poetry readings with famous individuals in the US, so that ultimately the video itself is extremely varied and really serves to give, there's Lisa in Walden Pond, serves to give a feeling and a context for the learning that's much richer than what you might see in the classroom. Sort of another principle was to utilize particular resources, physical resources that are at Harvard, and to share them with the world. So for example, this is a very large project called The Book, and Harvard has in America one of the best collections of medieval manuscripts.
Another scroll that we might put in the portable category is this one over here. It's not really clear which of the four categories, if any, this one should go in, but it's an interesting scroll. This is a scroll that talks about pilgrimage. We talk about it in some detail in one of our units. Has a picture of a Dominican monk arriving by ship at the Holy Land. And this whole thing is a description of a pilgrimage through the Holy Land with red crosses in places where you can get an indulgence.
So how do you do visual learning?
That text
using video
here, and
to
then
emphasize
there's another
key
text
aspects
that talks about other places around the Mediterranean world where there are the relics of saints and other kinds of holy.
So what this allows us to do is to use the medieval manuscript collection to show it as part of the learning experience and to share something that is a particular physical resource that's very special at the university. But one thing we want to do is to drive more interactivity in terms of the learning experience. So in terms of working with a medieval manuscript, traditionally, Harvard has a viewing software that looks something like this, a lot of information on the manuscript, and then you see a small image of a particular page of the medieval manuscript. What HarvardX did was, in partnership with the Mellon Foundation and with Stanford, we built and enhanced a particular open source piece of software for use on the edX platform, a new kind of viewer. So this is how, for example, this medieval book would look in our traditional system. So you can only look at it page by page by page, and here you see that's how big it can get. But in Mirador, you can see everything at once, pick one page, and then look at the power of zoom that you can have to read every bit of marginalia that might be of interest to you. If you're looking at a 36-foot or a 3-meter, 10-meter scroll, traditionally you would have to cut the scroll up into sections. You would see it section by section. In the new viewer that we built for edX, that's more than 10 meters long, and you can zoom on any part that you want and scroll literally for 10 meters. You can highlight any section you want, and students can annotate, make comments on any part of the scroll. With the same viewer, we can take an object, you can turn it to look at every view, but you can also zoom in at incredibly high resolution. For some medieval books, it's very important to be able to see both pages. And so once again, with this viewer, you're able to do that. So you can literally interact with the object and annotate it much more powerfully than ever before. So this is in Jeffrey Hamburger's course on medieval manuscripts. It embeds seamlessly into the edX platform, and it allows you to assign things to your students, and they can annotate, comment on, share it with each other, and share it with you. in terms of interactivity, we also wanted to change how do you interact with the content. Must you follow everything in a linear fashion? And the answer is no. So with our Neurobiology of Behavior MOOC, which is still being made in sections, the idea was to have sort of a recommended path through these clusters of content, but within each one, you can explore it in any way that you want, as long as you get to a certain point, and then you can move on to the next one. What this professor, David Cox, who's in my department, wanted to do as well was to change how interactivity works. He wanted to create the online experience of sitting with him at a table and having an exchange with him. So let's hear from David, how he thought about it.
We're excited to show you some of what you'll see when you take MCB80X, the new neuroscience course from HarvardX. We're aiming to change the way you think about massive open online courses. In MCB80X, we're piloting a new mode of online student interaction that we call guided interactivity. The problem with watching lecture videos online is that the interaction is fundamentally unidirectional and largely passive. In MCB80X, we want to reframe the student-teacher interaction using the technology of the internet. Now, instead of me just lecturing at you, we'll have a one-on-one discussion, and we'll invite you to interact and engage with rich simulations and interactive tools, seamlessly woven into the flow of the lecture. Together, we'll build up a neuron piece by piece, and you'll be in the driver's seat, guiding your learning according to your own needs. In the course of our discussion, we'll invite you to make hypotheses about what you'll see, and then we'll give you the tools that you need to test those hypotheses. Oscilloscopes, stimulators, patch clamp amplifiers. You'll probe the inner workings of the neuron, like a scientist would. Your responses will drive your learning experience in different directions. A kind of choose-your-own-adventure lecture that dynamically adapts to your needs.
So this gives us an opportunity to also do research on how students interact with the material and how learning is supported. We also are working on different modes of visualization. For example, when you think about visualizing a process in biology, like a nerve cell, you tend to think of either microscopy or a very sophisticated kind of animation, like Avatar. But what we realized is that you can also use claymation that allows you to give a much more three-dimensional sense, for example, of neurons and how they connect with each other. So that's made from clay. But it also allows you to be humorous. So the idea is, how does the injection of humor into what we do in terms of the learning experience actually help students keep their attention on it and help them focus and understand the concepts more effectively?